guys, welcome back. So today we're out at the range to talk about the 2011, well, in this case, a Springfield Armory 1911. They call the 1911 DS Prodigy, which is Springfield Armory's version of the Staccato 2011 pistol that everybody loves right now. Its selling point is that it comes to market at about $1,000 less than the Staccato version, the Staccato P. The question then becomes, well, is it worth the $1,500, or are you like giving up something for that $1,500, and would you be better off buying the Staccato? Well, we'll try to address that in today's video when we do our assessment of the Prodigy 1911 DS from Springfield Arms. I want to thank Springfield Armory. I want to thank our friends over at Primary Arms for sending this pistol out to me. I have no money in the gun. Primary Arms doesn't care what I think of a particular product. They just ask that I give an honest assessment, which is what I always try to do. So with that being said, let's get started. Right now we have some Federal 124 grain ball in the OEM magazine. On top of the gun, we have a Springfield Armory Hex Dragonfly sight, and we'll talk a little bit about that in today's video. But let's get started with doing some shooting with the Prodigy. Federal 124 grain ball. See how the nose of the bullet's just ramming into the ramp. I'm making sure to put my thumb down here on the frame and not up here. So the Prodigy 1911 DS is an affordable option for the 2011 market, but as you saw in the opening of the video, the gun has problems, and it's not just this gun. If you do any searching online, you're going to find that the Prodigies are having problems all over the place. Now, this gun came right out of distribution. This wasn't a cherry-picked gun that went to a gun writing magazine that would sing the praises of it. This is just right out of distribution, straight to me from our friends at Primary Arms. And this is what you might expect if you were to buy one of these. They're available in two different versions. You have the 5-inch version that we have here, which is a 5-inch government style slide and barrel in terms of the length, and they have a 4.25-inch commander length slide. And the difference between the two, besides the barrel length and slide, is that this one has a 9-pound recoil spring. It's a very light spring. And the 4.25-inch model is going to have a 13-pound spring. Both versions have a 20-pound hammer spring in them. The gun has a high-vis front sight. This one came with a iron sight that is removable. I have instead in place the Agency Arms AOS sight mounting system with the Springfield Armory Hex Dragonfly red dot sight. The sight is the only red dot sight currently available for this gun. Other mounting plates are coming. They're just pre-order right now. The Dragonfly shares a footprint with the Burris Fastfire 3 if you want to use a Burris instead, and it might be your better option. I've tried to zero this red dot sight to the gun, and it's hitting low at 7 yards. I've maxed out my up elevation, so I can't zero the gun on this sight on this particular gun. $250, and it doesn't look to be the best quality. There's people out there talking about refresh rates. With the full-size Dragonfly that I have here, I don't see any flickering at any brightness level. There's other people out there talking about flickering that they see, especially on the smaller version for like the Hellcats. The refresh rate's very slow on these, and some people can see that, and it becomes distracting. Cameras definitely show it, but that's because of the shutter on the camera. My biggest problem with it is I can't zero it. So I have to take it off, put the iron sight back on, and hopefully I'll get an AOS plate for a quality red dot sight, like a Trijicon or something else down the road, maybe RS10 or something like that. All right, so 2011, double stack magazine, uses standard 2011 style magazines. It comes with Duramags, but I've been running into problems with the Duramags. They don't seem to work very well with ball ammunition. If a gun doesn't work with ball ammunition, there's a problem. And we're using Norma 124 grain ball and Federal 124 grain ball. But because the gun does use standard 2011 magazines, this is the Duramag with the Springfield Armory logo on the front. And we'll do a little bit of shooting with this. Had a good run there. All right, and then this is a Staccato magazine with the same ammunition in it. This magazine is a 2011 magazine, costs about the same, I think it's like $69. And there's also Checkmate magazines out there. Now, the guns are having reliability issues, as you can see. Most of the time, as I found online, simply changing magazines will get the gun to work. Now, the Internet Brain Trust has told me that I'm an idiot and that there's more wrong with the gun, and I would agree. I've watched Hilton Yam's video breaking down the components of the gun. There are other fitment issues, but most of the time it would seem simply changing the magazine to either a Checkmate or to a Staccato magazine, you will get improved reliability with the Prodigy. Staccato magazine. Now, as you can see, the ejection on this gun is all over the place. It throws it barely out the ejection port, throws them out here, throws them over here. It's flinging them everywhere. The gun is not properly fit from the factory. So reliability clearly is an issue. But again, if you have one of these and you're having reliability issues, you might want to try picking up one Staccato magazine, because they are 70 bucks, and see if that gets the gun mostly working for you. If that's the case, then over time you can start to upgrade the parts and fix those things that aren't properly fit or tuned and turn the gun into something a little bit better. So if you're having problems, try a different magazine. So let's take the 1911 DS apart. It's a little bit different than your standard GI model, and that's because of the two-piece guide rod. I am not a fan, and I cannot overstate that enough, I am not a fan of the two-piece guide rods that Springfield has been putting in their guns for decades. First thing I always would replace in my Springfield TRPs that I would buy 15 plus years ago is the two-piece guide rod. I get rid of it, put a Ed Brown GI system in it, because those two-piece guide rods historically have a problem with coming loose and causing the gun to have reliability issues. And I'm sure there's somebody out there that absolutely loves Springfield. Oh, Mac, you're so full of it, blah, 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 blah. Well, me and many of my friends have experienced those problems many times. Therefore, get rid of it, and you can do that with this gun as well. 10.8 actually makes the parts necessary to convert your gun to a more GI type and get rid of the two-piece guide rod, and in my opinion, improve the quality of the gun. So, with that being said, let's talk about how to disassemble the gun. First of all, you're going to want to make sure the magazine's out of the gun. We have the magazine out. I got it on the first try. Lock the slide back so I can make sure that the chamber is clear on the gun. Here you can see the guide rod sticking out. What I'm going to do now is just kind of let this go home. I'm going to take the supplied hex key and I'm going to loosen the guide rod. I'm just going to break it loose because it's tight, and just turn it a couple of revolutions. Now, I'm going to pull the slide to the rear. You do not have like a high power with a place where you can lock the slide to the rear to easily disengage or engage the takedown slot that's cut into the slide assembly. So what you have to do is get a little bit creative, point the gun in a safe direction, kind of pull it to the rear, find some way to hold it where the pin, cross pin, is lined up with its takedown part. Now, because Springfield has recessed this where it's flush with the frame, and it's also, the pin on the other side is mostly flush with the frame, makes this process even more difficult, trying to hold the slide to the rear and push on a recessed pin. And I can't quite get it far enough, so I'm going to use another takedown tool, a 5.56 round, and I'm going to push that pin out. All right, now the whole upper assembly will just slide right off. Now keep in mind there is a spring under tension in there, your recoil spring with the guide rod on it. Want to keep downward pressure on that so it doesn't shoot up and hit you in the face. There's no further disassembly required of the frame. Now, to take this out, I'm just going to keep downward pressure on it, take the hex key, and finish loosening this piece of the guide rod. It's easier if I do it this way. Okay, once it's completely loose, I can take that piece of the guide rod out. And now, controlling the spring tension, once again, lift up on the short plug. It is threaded on the end, so it's not a standard GI short plug. Take that out, and now I can take the recoil spring out, and then there's a sleeve that holds the recoil spring and guide rod assembly that fits into the front of the bushingless design. Once I have all those pieces out, push the drop link forward and slide your bull barrel right out the front of the slide, and the gun is disassembled for field maintenance. Now, this part, and this part can all be swapped out again for the 10-8 conversion kit to get rid of that two-piece guide rod. Can't recommend that enough. The other thing I want to talk about really quickly is something that is related to the parts themselves that are used in the construction of the gun. The upper slide assembly, forged, nicely machined. The metal parts of the lower, forged, nicely machined, good fitment with the polymer grip frame and all that good stuff. Where Springfield saved money in the production of this gun was extensive use of what appears to be minimally fit or not fit at all MEM parts, metal injection mold MEM parts. Now, MEM I've talked about in the past. MEM is not a bad thing. You'll find MEM in jet engines. You'll find MEM in modern car motors. Crankshafts can be made out of MEM. The right application, the right quality, and proper fitment means MEM can work just fine. The benefits of MEM is it's cheap and easy to manufacture small parts and get them to very close tolerances, thereby minimizing the necessity, in some cases, for fine fitment. The 1911 is a 100-plus-year-old design, and the gun, much like a German Luger, really benefits from hand fitment. They're all just a little bit different. You need to tune the extractor. You need to tune the ejector. You need to make sure that the slide, frame fit is good. There's certain things that really require the attention of a gunsmith to properly assemble it to get 100% reliability, accuracy, and quality and fitment and feel out of the gun. Every small part, and this is according to Hilton Yam in his video, every small part with the exception of the aluminum trigger, the steel trigger bow, and the mag catch are MEM. So your disconnector, your sear, your hammer, your grip safety, your safety lever, your cross pin, all those parts appear to be either unfit or mostly unfit, and therefore you're going to see different Prodigies having different issues potentially. Some may throw brass in your face, some may not fully eject the last round fired, some may just have very weak ejection, some may fling brass into orbit. It all depends on the angles of the ejector, extractor, and other parts. All right, so that's the downside, but that's where Springfield Armory cut costs on this to get it from $2,000+ down to the $1,500 price point. There's no free lunch when it comes to things like 1911s and old world technology. This is the Staccato XC. This is what everybody aspires to be, including Springfield Armory with their 1911 DS Prodigy. Now, Duramag doesn't necessarily make bad magazines. The Duramag just seems to have a problem with the Prodigy. The Staccato, on the other hand, made from premium parts and hand fit, being the better of the two guns. Let's see how well it works with the Duramag. Now keep in mind this is a competition style gun. This has a very light spring on it in terms of recoil spring as well. And when you go to reload your competition gun, you want to make sure that the gun will drop on that first round when you go to reload. Clearly it didn't, and it doesn't using the 20-round Duramag from the Springfield. But after that, it should work. We're using 124 grain ball, Norma. And other than that reload, it cycles fine. So the Duramag works through the XC with the exception of a full mag being inserted on a reload. So you probably want to slingshot it if you're using a Duramag and Staccato, or just get Staccato mags. It seems the primary conversation on the internet is the Prodigy, and is it a competitor to the Staccato series of pistols? Is it something that can be purchased instead of a Staccato, and would you get roughly the same performance for $1,000 less? Well, let's talk about that. So we've already talked about the disassembly of this gun. We've talked about the fact that the vast majority of small parts in the gun are MIM and don't appear to be hand fit, but if they are hand fit, it seems like minimal effort was put into it. I'm going to go with not hand fit, just MIM parts dropped into the gun and hoping for the best. Then we have the Staccato. Now this is the Staccato XC. This is their flagship model. It's the most expensive. I don't have access to one, but a Staccato P would be more in line with the 1911 DS Prodigy in terms of features, okay? So the XC, one of its most defining features is the muzzle brake, or the compensator, I should say, on the end of the barrel. All right, so the standard P model would have just a 5-inch slide and barrel like you see on the Prodigy. So let's pretend that this is just a Staccato P for the sake of conversation. That would make this a $2,400 handgun, and this is a $1,500 handgun. So between the Staccato offering and the Prodigy, about $1,500. So what are you getting for your $1,500 savings, or what are you getting for your extra $1,500 should you opt to instead go for the Staccato? Well, MIM parts aside, fitment is everything. And I've often told people this. The difference between a $500 handgun and a $3,500 handgun, in many cases, the quality of the parts and how much time by a qualified gunsmith is spent fitting those parts together. No arguing the 1911 along with other guns of the era like the Lugers and things like that. It's a 100-plus-year-old design, and it benefits from a qualified smith hand fitting those parts. So that's the primary difference between the Prodigy and the Staccato series of handguns. You're paying for bar stock, tool steel, if you will, properly hardened, hand fit parts versus MIM slapped into the gun itself. And so how does that translate into the overall feel and quality of the gun? Well, Springfield always does a fairly good job of machining the slide and frame fit. So the slide and frame fit on this is very smooth, okay? Not surprising. They've done a historically good job of that. One area that's very easy to point out that's a problem with the fitment of this particular gun is the disconnector, a MIM part. The disconnector, now I was watching Hilton Yam's video from 10.8, and his 5-inch model, when you pulled the slide to the rear and eased it up against the disconnector, it would hang. This one's doing it now too. It's the first time I got to do it. You just touch it and it goes home. Let's see if it'll do it again. See if it'll hang up on that disconnector. Usually it will slip right past it. We did get it to hang up once. But I can apply additional pressure to that disconnector by doing this. I'm going to put my finger on the trigger, pull the trigger, hold the trigger to the rear, pull the slide to the rear, ease it up onto that disconnector, and every single time it's going to stop there. Watch what happens when I release my finger from the trigger. Okay? Not proper fitment. Staccato. I can't even feel the disconnector. All right? It's just nice and smooth. All right? So I'm not going to get it to hang up on the disconnector because I can't even feel the slide bump into it. So let's go ahead and fire it, pull it to the rear, ease it forward. I can't even feel the disconnector. It's not going to stick back. So that's one example of proper fitment, right? That disconnector. That also translates into trigger pull. 1911s generally have very good trigger pulls, especially ones that are hand fit. You can feel that trigger go right up against a shelf. It'll stop. You push past it, and you have a nice, clean, crisp break anywhere from 3.5 pounds to 6 pounds, whatever you want to tune your triggers to. But the point being is you have that straight back trigger, no grittiness, no sloppiness, nastiness, no over travel. On the Prodigy, I'm going to press on the trigger, takes up, hits the shelf, a little bit of grit, heavy, heavy, brakes, no over travel. So if I'm going to complain about the trigger pull on this gun, it's heavy. That can be changed. A little bit of grit, just a little bit heavy. On the Staccato, goes straight back, no grit, nothing, just goes straight back to that shelf, push on it. Oh, perfect brake, much lighter trigger pull. That's a matter of personal preference. And again, no over travel. The trigger on this is infinitely better than the Prodigy. The Prodigy, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it a 7.5. On this, I'd give it a 9.5. Very good trigger. One of the best I felt on a 1911. You'll also notice that they're very similar in design, and folks are going to wonder, well, can I get a Staccato grip and put it on the Prodigy? Well, a first generation, according to Hilton EM, yes, you can put it on the Prodigy, but the current generation, like you see here, will not fit on the Prodigy. The frame is slightly different. Now, you will notice on the bottom here, there is molding in the polymer for what would appear to be an extended mag well, like you see on the Staccato. However, this Staccato will not fit on this grip. This mag well will not. So I'm not sure if there's going to be something offered later by Springfield on their website, or if there's one out there that isn't made by Staccato that would work on here. Not sure. Another thing that's worth pointing out is the Duramags used in the Prodigy versus the mags that you can get for your Staccato. These base plates are not compatible with aftermarket 2011 base plates. And these magazines appear to be problematic in this particular gun. So, yeah. Everything else, things like 1911s, things that I like in terms of ergonomics, right? So let's talk about the safety lever, all right? One of the things that I'm very particular about on a 1911 is this safety lever, because this is a gun intended to be carried cocked and locked, so you want very positive engagement and disengagement, right? So you want to know when it's on, you want to know when it comes off. Also, when I push down on this, there is no mush. This thing just comes to a stop, positive click on, positive click, no wiggling, no movement. It's just on and it's off. And when I'm firing, the thumb rides on that, and it's a very solid platform for that thumb to ride on. On the Prodigy, good positive click going on, click coming off, but when it does come off, it mushes. It's just not hand fit. It's just, you know, a mem part that, so when you're shooting it, it just feels sloppy. When I push down on it with the thumb, I can feel the other side hitting my knuckle over here. It's not a good rest for my thumb. It's just annoying, right? It's not going to affect the function of the gun. It's just annoying, especially for a $1,500 handgun. As I pointed out, you'll notice that the slide stop slide release on the Prodigy sets flush with the frame, and it's not raised, making it very difficult to lock the slide open manually. It's okay when you go to brushed off. If you have ape thumbs like me, I can get over there to get it, but if you don't, your thumbs are shorter, without an extended slide stop slide release, you're never going to hit that thing. You're definitely going to have to do that to hit it. On the Staccato, it is setting above the frame, and the shelf here is cut in such a way that I can easily run my thumb up, and there it is. I can feel it, I can push up and lock that sucker open every single time. So just that little attention to detail, potentially, let's say, a $30 part, and Springfield could have improved this considerably, because this pin, in my opinion, absolutely has to be changed, because that's just horrible interface, horrible ergonomics, needs to go. But with the Staccato, perfect function, everything's nice and smooth, exactly what you would expect from a gun in its price range. So again, no free lunches in 1911s. Is the Prodigy a competitor to the Staccato? In price only. Certainly not in terms of quality or anything like that. It's, in my estimation, as I've said before in this video, it's a great project gun. It's the starting point, but you could also buy a complete gun and just go to the range and shoot it. Well, I think you guys know where I'm going to go with this one. The Springfield Prodigy 1911 DS, what do I think of it? Well, it's a great $1,500 project gun. If you're looking for a 2011 that you can go buy, take it right out of the box, go straight to the range and get into a competition shoot with it, you're probably not going to have very good luck with your Prodigy. Now, that's not to say some folks out there don't have guns that work well. Seems like the 4.25 inch barreled guns are more reliable than the 5-inch barreled guns, which I have here. And some people are probably having good luck with their 5-inch barreled guns, but there are a lot of people having the exact same issues I'm having with the Prodigy, which is unreliability. Seems to be maybe, at least with this gun, somewhat rectifiable by using Staccato or perhaps even Checkmate magazines. I've seen that mentioned on the internet. Seems to be fixing a lot of people's problems, but I won't deny that, you know, folks like Hilton Yam have said that this gun has a lot of mem parts that aren't properly fit, and that's going to contribute potentially to some of the reliability issues of the gun. So maybe you can get away with fixing it with a magazine, maybe not. Either way, 1,500 bucks, it's a roll of the dice. I know Springfield Armory can do better. I have guns that are 15 years old from Springfield Armory. They're perfectly fit, that shoot perfectly well, so I know they know how to do it. What they need to do is quit trying to cut the cost so much that they're sacrificing quality. I don't even know how this thing left the factory. If they would have test fired even one magazine through it, they would have known the gun didn't work. So that's a problem. And then we get to the red dot sight. Right now, the only red dot sight plate that's available for it using the Agency Arms AOS system is the one that comes in the box with the gun, and that's set up for a burst fast fire footprint, which also happens to work with the Springfield Armory Hex Dragonfly red dot sight. 250 bucks wasted once again. This sight, unfortunately, I can't get zeroed. I can't bring it up enough. I've run out of up elevation, and I'm still about 3 inches short at 7 yards. So the red dot sight is a complete waste. I need to take it off, and when one of the pre-order plates that works with a more, higher quality red dot sight, put an SRO or something else on there, then maybe I'll give it a try again with a different red dot sight. But it still has problems feeding. Even with Staccato magazines, it's only about 99% reliable. What do you do? Anyway, that's my assessment. If you're looking at picking one of these up, check out some other reviews. Don't take, one gun example and one person's opinion as the gospel. Do your research before you invest in something, because $1,500, while it's $1,000 less than a Staccato P, is still a lot of money to people. It's nothing to sneeze at. So please do your research and don't just take my word for it. Look around. All right, guys, if you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms channel, please consider becoming part of our Patreon family. You can do that by following the link in the video description below. Also, right here on YouTube, you got that little join button. You can mash that join button underneath the video player you're watching right now and support us in the age of demonetization here on YouTube. And last but not least, guys, please swing by, check out Copper Custom. Thank you for 14 years of support, and we'll talk to you guys soon.